Saturday morning outside the Lee funeral home. This is how the final journey began for a man who dedicated almost his life to public service, the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. But before the procession bearing the remains of the former president could take place, police were busy manning the roads to ensure they were clear of any traffic. As a matter of priority, everything had to move smoothly as the day's mood dictated. And although earlier communication had suggested that the solemn procession would leave the Lee funeral home at 8:05 a.m., the convoy, just like the man it set out to honor, was fashionably early. Being a former head of state and a commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the late Moi's procession was like no other witnessed in the city, only comparable perhaps to that of the founding president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, in 1978. At the front of the procession was a chase car, led by 3 outriders and 3 military police officers on foot on either side of the car. Following closely behind was another outrider that led the military vehicle tethered to the gun carriage, on which a casket draped in the national flag bore the remains of the late retired president. The gun carriage was further encircled by 3 motorcycles as the convoy slowly snaked its way onto Valley Road. From a distance, the majestic motorcade lit up the road for all to witness. At one point, it came to a complete halt before embarking on a slightly faster trip down Valley Road, onto Horo Highway, down Harambe Avenue, and finally to Parliament Buildings. It is here that the body was gently lowered from the gun carriage by 8 military officers, donning the ceremonial regalia, and later carried inside by 10 officers into the Parliament foyer, where it lay in state. Shortly after, the roads were reopened for normal traffic, then later closed again, as senior diplomats, cabinet secretaries, the deputy president, and finally the head of state made their way to Parliament to pay their respects to the departed. At Parliament grounds, the late Moi was accorded full musical honors as a military and a government choir played their part. Inside the foyer, where his body lay in state, 2 military officers dressed in ceremonial red tunics guarded Mzee's body. Due to the demanding nature of the job, they changed guard after every hour. For at least 2 hours early Saturday morning, the country's capital Nairobi was at a standstill as the procession carrying the body of the country's late president, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, maneuvered its way through this section of the road, heading towards Parliament Building, where the body will lie in state for 3 days before finally being buried on Wednesday. Shukri Wachu, K24, Nairobi.